could be tied back to the Deshaun Watson stuff. So we're going to take this tweet here in a sec. The Dolphins will forfeit a first-round pick in 2023, a third-round pick in 2024, and owner Stephen Ross has been suspended through October 17th of 2022 after a league investigation into tampering, into possibly getting Tom Brady to retire as a ploy, to then bring him on. So I'm going to ask you guys this, because Bo put it in the group chat. I think it's a great point.
That's so great.
Is the NFL doing this today?
Of course.
To show
Yes,
that
they are.
Absolutely.
Yes, they are.
Yes.
First thing I thought when I
possible appeal of the Deshaun
timing
Watson
is pretty convenient.
it is the first thing I thought.
God.
Now you're going to clean up your house.
Oh, God.
Well, if that's the case, they got some backtracking.
Oh, they got a lot of
That's the
backtrack.
case.
Because you know what? That's all good, but that's not Jerry Jones.
Yeah, you got to throw.
That's definitely not Robert Kraft.
You're going to open this door, you got to go all the way through.
Robert Kraft is on a jet ski to Cuba right now. Trying to get to
You know what?
international waters.
That's a visual.
He's trying to get
Does he have a tie on?
That news came on his phone. He said, let me get up out of here.
He's on that cocaine cowboy jet ski down there in Miami. He's out of here, bro.
If they're going to do this, and if they're going to do the Dolphins owner like that and backtrack and get everybody else, if they want to get Deshaun in the process,
I will say, though, this isn't
wouldn't be
backtracking.
mad
This
about
is a
it.
relatively, this is a new.
That's a new probe. And if they really wanted to get to it, hey, call up Flores. I'm sure he'll talk to you. You going to get that probe?
Well, when I saw the breaking news in the Dolphins, I thought it was
that's
Flores.
what I thought it was Flores,
Like,
too.
now they're going to.
I was going to be like, oh,
They don't want no smoke on that one.
But
either.
you know what? It'll be curious. I'm curious to see if they do go there
If they
on their
do-
own.
Yeah, if they do, that's brilliant.
They might
It is brilliant because they say if all this is going to come out in public,
We
with
might as well get it
some
now.
sort of
Yeah.
discovery.
Yeah.
But does it change your thinking at all on what the NFL is going to do here, appeal or not? Because I have been in the camp of they're not going to appeal, but all of a sudden,
I feel the same way.
I think that the tide might be turning because. Dude, if they start
feel that way
dropping
too.
breadcrumbs,
Gee, I'm sorry. I feel what Jay talking about.
No. See,
I do.
See, here's what I feel like that's a good idea, but in principle, any good lawyer would tell you you don't want that because you know what I'm going to do. Okay, well, you know what the next steps is. Let's go ahead and get this lawsuit popping. I'm gonna go to court, and when I go to court, I'm going to do something that Congress couldn't do. I'm going to do something the league couldn't do. Mr. Kraft, can I talk to you about
sit down and answer some questions.
Under
Yep.
deposition?
Exactly. And Daniel Snyder.
And Daniel, can I talk to you about this, and these are going to be public. You got to understand something. And then they're going to say, matter of fact, can I get that whole hard drive? Can I get that? Can we look at the collar cap?
The 600,000 email from the Washington Redskins, which led to John Gruden getting fired.
Bring that
Like
back.
that was all you found?
That was it was only one person.
You opened up a can of worms.
So it was only. I mean, it's
But they
hard
could
for
be
one.
selective about which ones they go after and which ones they don't. Like, obviously, they're willing to go after somebody.
Yeah.
Well, it's interesting to me that this isn't a sex-related
Exactly.
thing.
No.
This isn't a legal thing. This
that's
is
why it's picked.
skirting league rules.
And that's why it's picked. So I don't
Sure.
think they necessarily have to bind themselves to putting people on the record. in
Does
an
it change
uncomfortable
your
way.
thinking on whether or not the league would be more likely to appeal that this comes out, the timing of this, G. Bush? It's not an accident.
Come on. Not at
I
all.
still totally agree with what Aditi said earlier, and that this is a minute-to-minute thing. I think that they are floating this out too, and this is still part. They've still got two days.
Yeah.
This is
Yeah.
like Nick Nolte 48 hours now. Okay. So they're
Tomorrow we're going to drop some Redskins breadcrumbs.
Now they're going to see how we react to this, maybe, because
Yeah.
I think it's I think it's probably that fluid.
Hey,
I really do.
I tell you, for me, I'll look at it like this. If they want to, all of this, if it's going to cause owners to have to go and actually have to go talk to investigators and be on the record for stuff, they're going to come to him and say, listen, Roger, get rid of the story. The woman gave him 6 games. I'm not going to be up here. I'm trying to get my life back. They forgot about the whole thing in Jupiter, Florida. And by the way, if you look at Gruden, right, how many people usually are racist by themselves? Usually it's not. If you say something that's kind of a borderline
alone
joke.
at home in a mirror?
Yeah, like you're not doing that alone in the mirror. Like if you have Gruden saying that,
Right.
who else do you have saying?
Right.
Oh, well, that certainly isn't a one-off.
Yeah, that ain't a one-off.
No. Well, even in society, like, I don't know what the percentage is, but whatever the percentage is in society, it's likely mirrored in the NFL.
Yeah. Yep.
And it's likely mirrored in Major League Baseball.
It's like a locker room. That's like if you go to a locker room and you told a player, even this is college players. If you go back and think about it, they say they got tapes of somebody doing something improper that's really going to shake the world. You go back and say, what year is it from? Is it guy was I there?
Yeah, no,
I start thinking real.
Sure.
What was I doing?
What kind of language was I using at that time?
Well, guys, how many people would pass this test? What if I dig into your email for 10 years?
Oh, come on.
What if I dig into your text message? Guys, that's where we are.
Yeah.
John Gruden was fired for sharing opinions when he was a non-league employee that went back 10 years.
Right.
So I don't know that anybody wants that standard being applied to them.
No. Yeah.
So what was odd to me about the whole Washington investigation, they're looking for improprieties from the owner. And what is clearly, and I think everybody would agree with this, there's been a toxic workplace environment there for a while. The result of their digging into 600,000 employee email was a non-employee got fired for things that he would definitely not want public. But what about all the other stuff in the investigation? He was the only one that said anything
bad.
And by the way, this is how Roger Goodell operates. You know what he called Roger Goodell in those emails.
Yes.
Right. So you think that was just bitterness right there?
I mean, what do you think it was?
I don't know.
He's the only collateral damage?
Maybe his was the only thing that rose to the occasion of being considered that problematic.
I don't want to.
I doubt it.
I don't want to get to the full conspiracy theory thing, but I'm saying though, man, what is your opportunity cost? Is it worth it to get 2 more games? Is it worth it to get 2 more games for people who are going to forget about it anyway at the beginning of the season?
That's a very good point,
That's
G.
actually
Bush.
a very
That
good
is a
point.
great point. So, in trying to sway public sentiment, which may or may not be the pervasive thought in the public space, is it really worth having to go through disclosure on a myriad of other issues that the league is certainly going to be embarrassed by to get 2 more games?
Well, let me ask
Who says they're going to open themselves up to that?
They will. So the league, when the league files a lawsuit in federal court,
right,
they're going to say, was he punished fairly in terms of the way your owner, when you've done investigations to your owners?
Right.
Obviously, none of that was leaked to the public because there was only one side of it. John Gruden's lawsuit, by the way, was rubber stamped by a judge that, yes, it can indeed move forward. Flores, same thing.
So
these things are going to come into the public space unless the NFL writes a couple of really big checks. I think John Gruden's going to get a huge check.
Okay.
Be quiet, go away, and none of the other Washington stuff will be in the public space.
So if they appeal it, whether it's games or just to add a fine, they still open themselves up to...
The NFLPA has said, when they started throwing bombs, the NFLPA said very clearly, if we get a suspension that we're not happy with, when the process is done, they've obviously said they're not going to appeal Sue L. Robinson's decision.
Right.
They have already in the public space said, if you come after us for more than what we're given, we are going to file a lawsuit in federal, and that's where it comes in.
Oh, well, they got to sit
early.
They got to sit this one out then.
And the collectively bargain agreement. So what will happen is, as part of their lawsuit, the NFLPA's lawsuit against the league, they will bring up these other issues to see was Deshaun Watson dealt with in the same way that your owners
and they will
with.
get discovery. So that means they will get emails, they will get documentation, they will get all of that. Those are records. They have to.
And that will be
if that's the case, then G. Bush is right. It ain't worth the 2 games.
No, that's the main reason I've said they're not going to appeal.
Give them the 6 and keep it moving.
The whole NFL to get shooken and turned.
I don't want nobody in my email.
But why would they get discovery over things from the Washington investigation?
They're going to see if the league dealt out fair justice to Snyder.
And we're assuming that whoever is judging or whoever is overseeing this is going to accept that as relevant material.
Well, what they're going to argue is the player being dealt with in a manner that's consistent with other league employees and because their own collectively bargain agreement adds the owners into that.
That was their snafu. They should have never put them in there. They never
should have put the owners
They should have never put them. Now they're open to investigation that says, okay, well, you feel that this was fair and equitable. Show us.
Yeah. What did Snyder do to get nothing? or a slap on the wrist.
What type of investigation did you have? Who talked to the people? What happened? Robert Kraft, can we bring him in? Why he has a tape of something? All of these things are, and here's the thing, nobody wants this. If they really want, I said it before, it's a class action lawsuit. They will point to the fact that the league effectively gave Colin Kaepernick an indefinite suspension, could not play for simply kneeling.
Well, they've already had to write Colin Kaepernick a check. They settled that lawsuit out of court.
Why is it
and that's the league's history, Mike. So when they get things that they're worried will become in the public knowledge, they write a check. They don't play. They don't want this out in the public space. I think if the average fan knew everything that was turned up in the Washington investigation, there would be a lot of questions pointed to the league.
So you guys are saying, though, the NFL Players Union, they have all the power right now, is what
I think they have the hammer. I wouldn't say all the power.
No.
I think they have.
I mean, what you're saying is if the NFL has no say, according to you guys right now, because if the NFL says we want to add 2 more games, the NFL Players Association has already said we're going to take you to federal court and we get to see all of your records.
Yeah, I'm not
is that
saying
what you're saying is going to happen?
I'm not saying they have no say.
Okay.
I'm saying in the battle between the NFL and the NFLPA, I believe, I could be wrong, this is just my opinion, I believe that the PA holds the hammer because they've already made threats that essentially we'll burn this whole damn thing down over this. It's an odd hill to die on.
I've compared it to it's the last-ditch effort. It's the nuclear option, right? It's assured mutual destruction. If you're going to do this,
if you're going to hit your button, we're going to hit ours.
We'll hit ours, and Aditi said it already. There's nobody that looks good in this.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that they're bringing other things into the spectrum?
And Aditi even said there's a lot of things out there they don't want to be into the public space.
Why isn't nobody talking about the Texans no more?
No, that's another part of it.
They'll bring that up.
No, listen, that's another part of it. They had 30 lawsuits that they settled.
Right? That's nobody, not on any news outlet is being talked about.
It's so difficult because I think what Sue Robinson is letting people know, we've been so used to getting justice on Twitter or social media where we feel like if we feel a certain way, that's what it is. She had to write down and said, listen, the reason I can't even really give them over 6 games is because you failed to basically do and honor your ruling when it comes to everyone.
Yeah, she said, I'm pretty much restricted by your guidelines that you've set. And what's interesting to me, and I'm glad that you brought that up because I wanted to ask you particularly this question. Mike, when I read the decision, I think the reason I said what jumped out to me was her sort of admonishing the NFL for trying to somehow gauge public perception as factoring public perception into justice. That's not the way justice works, and it shouldn't be.
It actually is in this case, though.
It isn't because
it's about the NFL's reputation, so that's their form of justice.
Right. However, unless you're going to do a scientific poll as to what the public really thinks, and they're not doing that.
Right.
They're sitting in Park Avenue right now, combing through websites, looking at the Washington Post, the New York Times, NPR, all of the big needle movers in media. They're also monitoring public reaction. That's not scientific.
No, but no one says it has to be scientific.
No, it doesn't
Any
have to be scientific, but
can hold their employees to whatever standards they care to.
That's not true.
But
that's not true. That's bona fide false. That's not true.
No, go ahead. In what way?
The fact when you talk, Ohio's an at-will state, right?
Right.
At-will applies to regular associates who are not part of a union that has a collectively bargained. Just cause has to be the burden of proof.
All right, listen, that's not the point. Here's what you're missing. I work for Tegna, and I've been told that I have to watch my tweets and make sure they're not too political.
Okay.
Right.
And otherwise, I'll be terminated.
Are you part of a union?
Yes, I am.
So you're part of a broadcast.
I am, and I'm not allowed to do that. But because that is a company policy that they hold, and I have to honor it, or I have to leave. I don't have the right to do that, and I can't say I have my freedom of speech and I can say whatever I want. I can say it, but then they have the right to fire me.
Yes, you have the right to say it. They have the right to act however they want.
Yeah.
However, what I would say is different about this is when a judge in a court is not reading papers to see how do people feel. Jurors have specific instructions. Mm-hmm. Don't put your ear to the ground on this.
Right.
In fact, when you're seating a jury, they are specifically, that's why I'm always shocked that people get sit on juries. I'm like, are you people living in a cave?
Right.
Have you heard anything about the O.J. Simpson case? No. Where are you living?
Right.
How are you sitting on a jury if you haven't heard anything?
And should we really use your...
And are you the standard we want to
if you obviously are unaware of anything in the world...
No, that's a great point. But like when juries are instructed and seated, they're told specifically, don't listen to anything about this case.
But this is not a jury. This has nothing to do with a courtroom.
It's not a jury, but she's a judge.
So
she's a judge working not as a judge. I mean, she's working as a judge, but hired by a company.
As an arbiter.
Right. But she's going to...
So she doesn't have to follow...
She still has her methodology that she uses.
Yes, but she's not beholden to it.
Part of a judge's methodology in any jurisdiction is not to, well, what's the public saying about this?
Right.
I understand why the company would be concerned about that, but they're not passing out justice here.
Yeah.
She is.
So I looked up something from labor laws, right? Labor laws in pertaining to unions.
Does it say I can tweet and talk smack on Trump again, or no?
Yes. You can do that. You can do that.
But TEGNA also has the right to discipline you.
Union contracts usually include a reference called just cause. It's most often found in one of the following clauses for discipline, discharge, probationary period, personnel files, and management rights, and in other some contract articles. Even if just cause is not explicitly in a contract, arbiters will usually apply the just cause standard anyway.
And that's what she's doing.
She's an arbiter.
And that's what she's doing.
Now,
will usually.
Yes, usually, right?
So you notice there's wiggle room there.
There's wiggle room, right?
It's not mandated.
Now when we talk about...
And it's just like sentencing guidelines.
Now, these are her rules. This is what usually governs arbiters. It says equal treatment. Where the rules and orders and the penalties apply even-handedly or without discrimination. The rules must be applied consistently to all employees. The application cannot be discriminatory or selective. If other employees who commit the same offense are treated differently, there may be evidence of discrimination, what is called desperate treatment. Also, if enforcement of a rule has been lax in the past, management cannot suddenly reverse course without first warning employees of tighter enforcement rules. Please go back.
And Didi was talking about that.
And you go
I'm not arguing that.
But this is her ruling. She said, herefore, the NFL is attempting to impose a more dramatic shift in its culture without the benefit of fair notice.
Right. Changing the rules within the game.
So that's what she went by.
So I agree with all of that, and I think that in her ruling, I think she explained why she did what she did very well.
Yes.
But there was a part of me, I'm going to be very honest, when I read the ruling, and we've discussed what he did, what we think he did, she has the benefit of all of it.
You think he should have got more?
Well, I think, and I it's not that I wanted Aditi to go there, I wanted her opinion on this, I think she wanted to say this. It was my opinion, after reading her opinion, that she would have given him more.
Yeah.
She found his behavior to be egregious.
100%.
Yes.
And what I have a difficult time as I'm trying to do the mental gymnastics on this, how do I justify that? I'm a Browns fan. I want to cheer. I want to be happy about this. I really do. I know we're a better team with Deshaun Watson on the field.
Yes.
What I was hoping for, the real win-win here for me would have been, I find no evidence that he made anyone feel uncomfortable in sexual settings. That's what I was looking for.
That's what I would.
I mean, the number of
this
games.
is not that.
No, we did not
Mr.
get
Watson's
it.
pattern of conduct is more egregious than any before reviewed by the NFL.
Yeah,
that's a hell of a line.
That was in no way completely exonerating
She
him.
basically said
she
that.
guilty on
indicted
all
him.
three counts.
She basically
She said he's guilty on all three counts
Yes,
the NFL brought forward.
she did.
And this is the most I can give him given the parameters that you
And
gave
that's
him.
your fault,
So
NFL.
technically, anybody want to be mad if
That's
they should be
correct.
mad
How
at
do you
the
feel
NFL.
about
In
that,
that
though,
way,
G.
she
Bush?
also gave the NFL an escape hatch because she said, these are the parameters you set. You can't just spring these things on players all of a sudden.
Right.
That wouldn't be fair to them. This is the most I can do, and that's the most that. And she gave them that out and didn't say, now you should give them more. She said that you can't just ask players all of a sudden to apply to obey new rules that they were unaware.
But I think she's begging them to change their own
but
guidelines.
She gave them an escape hatch.
Definitely.
Yeah.
1,000%.
You think that too?
She definitely
G.
wants
Bush,
them to switch that
so
game.
where are you as a Browns fan? Because I know that you have been strong in the camp that the punishment should be lesser
4 to 6.
Right.
I've always been on that.
So after reading that, her decision was what we all kind of thought, and what maybe we haven't even discussed on air, but when we're in private circles, we're like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
Something was going on there.
Basically.
She basically said, yeah, there was something going on. It was egregious. The NFL proved that there was egregious behavior going on. Are you okay with it's almost like it was thrown out of court on a technicality. Like, can you really boast we won? Or can you say,
well, nobody won.
But yesterday when we heard that it was 6 games, we all kind of went around the room and said this is a win for the Browns.
Well, let's be clear.
But you did feel kind of dirty saying that.
It still is a win for the Browns, but it's just ethically, it's like
I don't think.
I have the same conclusion that I've had from get-go, right? And and a lot of people have disregarded, and she just basically said it. She said, look, I get it. If you're going to have these rules, stand up and hold everybody accountable. But when it comes to the accountability piece, we do mental gymnastics to vindicate people who have money in a position of power, and we don't do the same thing for people who are players that seem to be workers. The reality.
Well, yeah, but let's not say Deshaun Watson doesn't have both money and power.
I mean, yes.
He's not.
Listen. That power that they got, that power that the NFL owners have is the federal government told me to show up, and I said I ain't doing that.
Well, isn't Snyder now?
He did after about 2 weeks.
Let me ask y'all this. So say the NFL came out today and says, you know what? We're gonna switch this policy up. Robert Kraft, you suspended for a year.
Well, you can't do it retroactively because they didn't know what the rules of the game were.
That's what she's saying. That's what she's saying.
So if I'm Deshaun, I'm like, I'm going to sneak on out of here and I got my 6 games. But I feel sorry for the next person.
The next person's in trouble.
Now that's all I've ever said. I've always said.
And that's fair, too. You can't punish him. You can't change the rules in the middle.
Just because Robert Kraft, like you said, it was thrown out on technicality. Robert Kraft was on tape. They decided, or the courtroom, the court and prosecutor said, you know what? They obtained that illegally. They didn't do it the right way, above board. That counts. We're throwing it out. Bye. So
and without the videotape,
there's no case. So here's the thing: if I could understand in my mind as a human being, well, he probably did that, but it's a technicality. What I'm gonna do? What am I supposed to do?
There you got a point.
Now, if it's Deshaun Watson. And he paid off all the individuals, right? Even when you sit here and you say the Houston Texans paid 30 people, and we still have not heard about where they are we having an investigation? She's proving it in real time. When we sit here and we talk about the players, we completely, on the other side of the road, say nothing. We won't even mention it. It's no stories about them. So the problem is this. If you're going to be about it all the time.
I agree with
that. From
that.
now on, if you want to get caught in sexual misconduct, you're out of here. That goes for owners and everybody.
Yeah, but the difference is Robert Kraft paid for sex to a sex worker one time that we know of.
Is that illegal?
I think is
that illegal?
But they're different crimes.
No, hold on.
They are different crimes.
They're the exact same crime.
There's no victim in that crime.
Sex trafficking ain't your victims?
She's doing that of her own free will.
So hold on.
Here we go.
Let's be clear. Do we know the statistics about how many people that are in prostitution because they are getting trafficked?
There's studies that give you numbers, but we don't know what her situation was.
So
we have no idea.
We have to investigate it.
So what I'm saying to you is this.
Please.
If you are in the policy, you are held to a higher standard. The reason people have to do gymnastics is because they can't say that was wrong and that was wrong. Both were wrong.
Crimes are different.
Yeah, that's why there's sentencing guidelines.
Mm-hmm. And so
in real world and in the NFL. But what are the sentencing guidelines for the owner?
So zero.
Nothing.
We don't even talk about it.
Well, he paid a fine, right? Didn't he?
He was fined.
And what is he going to miss games? Did he not get to play offensive line?
They've taken forced
draft picks.
And they forced Jerry Richardson to sell the team.
I mean, those sound like some punishments, right?
Prostitution is illegal.
Yes, it is.
If you are owner of a team and you sit at the top of the food chain, my thing is we can't. My problem here is in this country, and I'll give you this, and we'll continue to move on. In this country, the outrage that we get for athletes is over the moon. It's over the moon. Every single other person with so much more just clout, so much more importance, money, power, we don't even look at it. We sitting here talking about this again after, let's be clear, 2 grand juries. You said go to an arbiter. The arbiter gave him 6 games, and people still don't think it's good enough. My problem is I'm not about to sit here and argue for 2 more games when people won't raise their voice for rich people at a person. It's vets around here that can't even get aid. And people talk about, I don't know what to tell my daughter about Deshaun Watson. You sure you do.
Well,
you tell her, no. You tell your daughter it's some crazy stuff out here. Stay away from people like that. There are wars out here. Guess what? You don't ever want to be part of them. It's a lot of crazy stuff out here. Athlete's job is not about raising your children. Stop putting it on that platter and be a man and grow and man up and say, look, I got to talk and teach my children. Deshaun Watson ain't my daughter's son, husband, daughter, whatever the case may be. I'm the parent and guardian of my child. My child does what I do. He's a reflection of me, not some dude throwing a football. And when we can get that together and stop putting that on athletes and put it on the people that's in charge of laws, charge of the church, charge of the clergy, and they sitting here ripping, running, and getting checks every day, and we say nothing, I'm not about to continue to do it. Give the man his 6 games and keep it pushing.
I agree with all of that, but with the exception that you're making a distinction, rich people and not. Deshaun Watson is a person of means. Deshaun Watson wrote checks to make people go away. Mm-hmm. That's privilege. That's money. That's rich. Yes. Rich people have the opportunity to say how much you need.
Mr. Watson identified himself as a player for the NFL to initiate contact with a therapist, and he used his ties to the Texans to reinforce his request for massages.
That is using your influence.
That's using your influence.
And your power and your
power in the NFL.
And so I don't want to. There are victims here. There are victims, and there are people that don't have money to hire a good attorney. Deshaun Watson has the best attorney you can buy. Deshaun Watson has money to write off all of the alleged victims and make them whisper and go away.
If Deshaun Watson had hooked up with one sex worker in Florida one time, and Robert Kraft
we would not be talking about
24 allegations of sexual harassment from different masseuses,
really?
Then
that's a good point.
Do you really think we'd just be like,
players have been arrested for solicitation. It's happened often.
Colin Kaepernick got crucified for taking a knee.
Well, that's a different issue.
Very different thing.
That's a different issue.
No, it's not this. It's not a different issue.
Well, because there's no owner that got that took a knee and didn't get
you
crucified.
You like to move these goalposts.
No.
Wait a minute. Let me tie it off.
Please, go ahead, Ty.
This is going back. I'm just going back to Jay's initial question. He said, as a Browns fan.
We started this with a question?
Yeah, he said, as a Browns fan, how can you be... How can you cheer the Browns
How
on?
do you do that? How are you justifying it?
Right.
And
to me, honestly, what I think is he paid the people. He's doing his punishment, and it's like jail. It's like going to jail. You hope that they
and his reputation is tarnished.
You hope that they reform and they come back and they learn from their mistake. He's been punishment. He's been punished. He's accepted his punishment. And you just hope that he becomes a better person. Moving forward, everybody's going to watch him. How does he interact with women? He can't do the massage thing anymore because it's in the thing. He can't. He can only give. So I think with him learning that and realizing that he's failed, because this is a family thing. Like, his family's going to suffer from this. Like, when his mom and aunts go out, they're going to be like, oh, you raised that. And that, as an athlete, to have that on your family's name, that's terrible. Mm-hmm. So moving forward, I think he will be a much better person.
I agree with that 100%.
1,000%. When it comes to women, I don't think he will ever do this again. And I think he will show women the utmost respect moving forward. And I think that's the way that I justify
my hope, and I firmly
because
believe
I am a person that believes in second chances, and a lot of people in America do not. But this man is going to serve his time. He's did what he's done.
I totally agree.
And he's going to learn. He's going to be a better person.
I think
we have to watch him, and we have to encourage him to do that. And we sit there and bring it back up. When you tear somebody down, they revert back to their past. If you cheered on,
especially when you take away the only thing they know,
the new behavior, it motivates them to continue to do that and be a better person. So I think that's how I'm gonna do it.
Directly relates to this point. I would feel better about that if it weren't for this phrase in the report. He has categorically denied the allegations against him, including that he ever developed an erection during a massage. It is difficult to give weight to a complete denial when weighed against the credible testimony of the investigators who interviewed the therapist and other third parties. Would we all be better with this if at some point he had admitted any kind of culpability, which he still has not, and said, maybe I was inappropriate and I apologize to you? He has not yet.
So I 100% would be.
I don't think
and early on in this show's history, I had said what I wish he would do, and his lawyers will never let him do it. What I wished he would have done from the very beginning is say, I have clearly done things that have made others around me extremely uncomfortable. Things that I thought were okay and acceptable during the normal course of a massage for money. I was clearly wrong. I made mistakes. I sincerely apologize. This has made me a better person. I'm going to definitely change my behavior moving forward and think about others that are involved in this transaction and not just myself. His lawyers would never let him do that. I wish he would have.
Sue's big mad about his unwillingness.
Sue is big mad about
his unwillingness.
And you know what? She even made the point about him being untruthful.
Yes.
So he was caught in a number of mistruths.
Maybe that was a part of the settlement. Maybe when he was settling, he said,
So
you know what, behind closed doors, it's an NDA, so we can't talk about it, but
I apologize.
Me to you, I truly apologize.
I sincerely hope,
and maybe he will once the final ruling comes out.
So let me ask you a question, and this is for everybody. So we've gone into this, right? And obviously we picked where Sue has said certain things, and you say, okay, that makes sense. I picked some things where Sue has said some things and said that's okay. So why is it that when her judgment came down, and she's the person who has heard the most testimony, seen all the documents, talked to both sides, why is it that people feel like they personally have more information than she does?
Well, because she confirmed what a lot of the detractors have been saying all along. But he was egregious.
But at the end of the day, that's her judgment and ruling.
Well, we have to trust that.
I can only go by what her ruling is.
Her ruling is saying I can only give this because of the NFL's
Her ruling had an asterisk next to it.
That's basically what it is.
He's
guilty,
but it should be more.
It's essentially the Mueller report.
And I think that's the part
that's
the part that everybody's upset with. The fact that he is guilty of something. And remember, all it takes is one, but he is guilty. She never said that he was completely innocent. And I think that's what the problem is.
She said the opposite. Completely innocent.
No, she said he was guilty.
Yeah.
She clearly says that.
There's never going to be cut, dry, clear, oh my God, you did this and we're going to give you this. At the end of the day, the process played out. The process was let her make her judgment. And even before I even knew what it was, I said it 4-6.
Right.
I think I was the first person to say before the Players Association. I said, you know what? Whatever she say, I'll stand on it.
You did say that.
And listen.
Weeks before.
And we have to. But the only reason I bring up what Aditi was saying was because I felt so much better about it until I read the report. Because again, I was hoping that in the report, the judge would say, the league did not meet the burden of proof.
Yeah.
And therefore, I can't punish him for something that the league didn't prove he did. She didn't say that at all. No. In fact,
she said the opposite. She said he guilty,
she said
but
they proved
all I could do.
On all three counts, they proved it.
But because of your stupid system, NFL.
But because
so
you
the NFL, if anybody should be mad, it should be the NFL. They should be mad at the NFL.
But the NFL created this system, and they created it with
and now they can't be mad at it.
But they can change it and do whatever they want.
And they will.
And they will. To whatever suits their needs.
Yeah,
so the next person
it's a learning experience.
The next person that come up, because she's obviously going to be here for a while. It's not her first rodeo.
I think they announced a term for her position. McNuggets, am I right?
On Judge Robinson?
Yeah,
it's not an endless position. Can you look that up? I thought when she was appointed that it
They're
was
not
for
like Supreme Court
for a
justices.
period of no, I don't think it's a lifetime appointment.
Everybody's mad.
I could be wrong on that. I remember reading it a long time ago, and as my memory serves, I thought she had a predetermined amount of time that she was going to be in that role. I could be wrong. Maybe they'll keep her until they don't like her anymore, and then they'll fire her. But I will say,
even that they can
they're
change.
mad at her this morning. yesterday because she clearly points out when it comes to player discipline, the NFL gets an F-. Because not only have they been inconsistent, but they change rules. They put rules in place that they then learn later. Why'd we put the owners in that agreement?
I got a question.
Why did we never done that?
No, and they never should have put sentencing guidelines for nonviolent sexual crimes. Each offense should be looked at independently on their own. And if that were the case, and I think that will be the case moving forward, you can't punish Deshaun Watson because you don't like the rules that you made.
Right.
You made these rules. You made your bed. You got to lie in it. He gets 6 games.
Question. Y'all might have an answer. So why is it that she can find something like make him guilty, but the 2 grand juries couldn't?
Well, that's civil and criminal. Civil and criminal is tough. The burden of proof is higher in a criminal case. So
but not to get charges brought.
Yeah,
so
that's
the lowest bar in the legal system for criminal activity.
Yes.
Is to get charges. But the saying is you can indict a ham sandwich.
He could have gotten indicted twice.
You can bring charges against anybody. It doesn't mean anything until you're convicted.
And also, it's neither of those because it's a thing that the NFL came up with as an internal policy.
Right.
It's
not civil. It's not civil or criminal.
It's neither.
It's not.
No. It is like a policy like if the station had a thing where if you leave your dishes out after you make like something gross in the kitchen, that you have to like you get
have to clean everyone's dishes for a month.
Yeah, you got to clean everyone's dishes for a month. They could just do that because they are their own business.
It is arbitrary. It's their company.
Yeah.
And to your point earlier, you don't have the freedom of speech that you think you have. I mean, you do, but it's not without
results,
without some sort of reaction from your employer. For instance, it was told to me this way when a while ago, I said, "What happened to free speech?" And a lawyer said, "So let me ask you, do you think this is free speech? If your postman who comes to your house every day and drops mail, and who is representing the U.S. Postal Service and by proxy the government, if he comes to your house every day and as he's dropping off your mail, he says, I got to tell you, I think this capitalism stuff is for the birds. I can't believe we're not socialist." He has the right to say that.
Right.
But the post office has the right to fire him.
Yes.
If you go to McDonald's and as the restaurant worker hands your food through the window, they can say anything they want to you.
And they do sometimes.
And they do.
Yep.
The one on McDonald's has the right to take action.
Yeah.
So I agree with that.
Is that freedom of speech?
No.
Not really.
It's freedom of speech, but not without repercussions.
Right.
Like you can't yell
First Amendment
fire in a crowded theater.
guarantee you no consequences.
You
but
can,
you don't get a
but you will be charged for inducing a riot.
And so I guess the equivalent of this is you can fire somebody for anything, but right. So if they say if you come to work late, you get fired, right? Jay comes to work late, he gets fired.
Yes.
The next day I come to late work, they say don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Then guess what?
That is selective enforcement.
They can do that, and that's the problem. It's the selective enforcement to say, well, hold on. Well, he comes back and finds out that I didn't get fired. He could go get a lawyer. And
sure,
say,
I could.
Yeah.
Here's the problem. There is no guideline for getting massages from 66 women, and 24 of them claim that you were sexually aggressive towards them. And that's why
they can't be like, like when Johnny Unitas did that back in.
He only got 2 games.
Right. Yeah.
So I think, and that's absurd to think that you could come up with every scenario that they're going to be faced with.
Right. Yeah.
That's why I think guidelines should be thrown out the window.
Yeah.
If you want a disciplinary officer, you empower them to dispense discipline the way they feel is just for the crime. So if that were the case, and that probably will be moving forward, because now the league has already said, damn, we made another rule and we just got bit by it. So I think moving forward is they're going to say, we have a disciplinary officer who will hear from both sides, and she will decide what is fair and just.
So they taking their precedent and just ripping it out.
Well, to the point of precedent, I was saying this yesterday to someone, there is no precedent.
Right.
This is Sue L. Robinson's first rodeo. So I think the new world order starts with her first rulings.
As if nothing bad has ever happened in the NFL before,
Jay,
and you shouldn't have to consider that?
I cannot find anything that confirms or denies that she is hired beyond this one case. I'm not sure what her contract is, but we got to talk a little Guardians.